ask you all, why do you row? Why, of all the things we have going on in our lives, kids, jobs, relationships, you could just stop there. Yeah, it keeps me sane. That might be my favorite answer of the day. I think I would second that. Why else do we all row? Fresh air and sunshine. Clearly not rowing in New York City, but yes. Scenic river, camaraderie, sanity, way of life, staying alive, balance, maintaining my sanity. Yeah, these all sound about right? Which is so different because collegiate rowers, these are not their answers, right? They don't say like keeps me sane. This is their future. Beautiful to be on the water. Okay, good. What's challenging about being a master's rower? For me, it would be, with balancing kids and work and life, like actually getting to a body of water and having that amount of time. That sort of access to getting on the water is not always easy. What's challenging for you all as master's rowers? Oh, that's interesting. Right. Coaching, drama, managing injuries. Yeah. Pogies. We can help with that. Coaching. Yeah. I think coaching is a big topic, an important topic. Yeah, I've seen a lot of masters where people will just say, all right, just go, let's go. Another 10-minute piece and not a lot of feedback. Getting coaches, varying skills and interests. Right. Okay. So thank you for all of that, for that feedback. One of my goals as a new CEO is to think about how US Rowing can provide value to all of our stakeholders. And we have a lot of them, right? So we're not going to be able to be everything to everyone, but I think there are a lot of things that we can do. And it's helpful for me to hear directly from you all. What are those things? I can make up what I think that they are. And obviously I've done some listening already. I think we can centralize some resources. It seems that people want to learn about how to start a club. People are eager to hear about diversity, equity, and inclusion in their own boathouses. How can we be thought partners there? Can we provide trainings? I've heard about centralizing resources for people finding coaches, and other, good feedback. But here to hear from you as masters this evening. So what can people tell me that would be helpful for you all, either as an individual masters rower or representing a group of masters rowers? So this is a dialogue. This is not me. This is mostly the end of my talking. So please, you can raise your hand and we can look for in real life, you can raise your hand, or you can do it down below. I think it's in reactions. Is it in reactions? No, it's in, Jack, do you know where it is? Or Brett? I'm asking the young person. I thought it was reactions. You can just raise your hand too if you want. Old school. So how could US Rowing be helpful to you as a master's rower, or to your group of master's rowers? And this is not in the chat. This is like a real conversation. Oh, Martin, thank you.
Hi, welcome. It's great to have you on board as head of US Rowing. I heard your interview on Rowing Chat. I'm really excited with the energy that you bring to it and your background, and seeing so much across the spectrum, including our world, I hope. My biggest frustration as a master's rower with respect to US Rowing is I am the guy in the 8 that wrangles everybody, that tries to keep everybody on track, that tries to keep us on track toward, let's say, particular competitions that we want to do. And it's been exceedingly difficult to sort of build up to, in our region, it's Southwest Masters Regionals.
Okay.
It didn't happen one year recently. It happened so late that it might as well not have happened another year. And I don't think it's because anyone didn't want it to. I just feel like it wasn't enough of a priority that that it was started early enough so that, you know, all the usual logistics and the wrangling and the negotiation, which is inevitable and which is, you know, the kind of the process of is maybe unique to masters, where you're getting a masters club to do all the work for this enormous event, which basically just taps out our volunteer hours for a long period of time. But, you know, we've done it. Other clubs do it. Lots of people do a great job at it. We just have to make a plan and execute. And if you wait until a few months before the event and you still haven't even like nailed the date down and communicated to it, it's almost like failure is baked in. So I would love to see an evolution eventually towards something like what we see with Masters Worlds, where they got this calendar where they're picking dates into the mid 2020s and they solicit input. And if you want to know, like, oh, maybe we'd like to host it. Oh, here's the calendar. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be one of these weeks or this month or this weekend. And here's what the basic requirements to make a bid are. And I mean, I know that's, you know, Masters Regionals is not Masters Worlds, but it's sort of it's a great target to shoot for, such that, you know, if I know as the team wrangler, 8 months out, it's Southwest Regional is going to be here, Masters Nationals is going to be here. I can have a good chance of having a competitive boat that's ready to travel, that's gotten their time off, that's gotten their child care dealt with, it's got their spouse negotiation about, you know, all these things that Masters are unique to Masters rowers. They just need that certainty. So anything we could do to increase that, and never like skip a regional such that never happens again, because it just seems crazy to me that a sport that gets a little bigger and a little more competitive every year, that there aren't 4 regional competitions feeding up to Masters National seems crazy. We have lots of clubs that are really in our region that, because of the uncertainty, they end up just going to Northwest Regionals. And I go to Northwest Regionals every year with a smaller subset, but I can't get an 8 of, you know, I can't get a C8 or a D8 or an E8.
Right.
All to go 800, 900 miles on a long weekend.
Yeah, of course.
So, as much as I would love to.
So Martin, longer, so as much advanced lead time and planning, and I hear you. And again, Jack is capturing all of this. So we will, we're going to go through each one of these listening tours and then come back with each of these groups to say, this is what we heard. These are the things we absolutely can do. These are the things we absolutely can't do. I'm hopeful things like this will fall into we can and we will. Okay, Kirsten had her hand up. Kirsten?
Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
So I row in a single at a very small club. There's just a handful of Masters rowers, but I would love to get in a bigger boat and race sometime. And so it may exist and I don't know about it, but I would love if US Rowing could create a format to bring, there's an 8 at this race. You've got a certain erg score, put your name in to row with this boat.
Like some way cruise.
Some way to kind of bring people in so you could keep racing beyond a single and get more people going to races.
Yeah, definitely. That's a perfect example of how maybe we could be that centralized resource. So love that. Thank you. Sharon wanted to share some feedback. Hey, Sharon.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, just tagging on to Martin's comment, I'll just generalize. Out here in California, it often feels that US rowing is very East Coast, New England centric, the rowing news and things like that. And just lots of conversations about rowing with US rowing or other people tend to start with this, like, Jim Bigat hairy, and I rode with this person, and people have to start with this whole litany of people that they know to build their credibility. It's like, that's fine. But I'm just a rower here in California and I have an issue, you know? And so so I'm going to generalize what Martin said. I feel left out here.
Right.
A lot of the time.
Yeah. 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 I can imagine that is true. That's really helpful to hear too, because, you know, well, forget about Northeast, like New Yorkers, right, are infamous for like thinking the sun sets here, rises and sets in just like this one city. So well aware of that feeling, and I think that's very true, that we're too Northeast centric and need to really be deliberate about hearing from people around the country and clubs and being supportive and responsive that way. So,
yeah, and then on a more positive statement, I'd say, I mean, I think one of the other things that's a little bit frustrating in the Bay Area is we have lots of rowing in the Bay Area and lots of college grads, and it doesn't seem like we do as good of job, at least in Northern California, of kind of capturing the lifetime rowers as some of the other regions do. And I don't know what the solution is, but it drives me nuts that we row in the same water as Stanford. We have, tens of thousands of Cal grads within a couple of zip codes. And yet we've got, a handful of sort of subscale masters clubs floating around in our region.
I think that's not as unique to you all as I keep hearing that around. I hear that a lot, actually. So
yeah, so athlete retention and kind of building the network, whether you're currently on the water or if there's a way to keep people in the family longer.
Yes, that's
would love
that, is
because
like
80,000 is not very many members either.
It's mostly juniors and under 23.
Right, when you look at like US swimming is 400,000 members.
Yeah, there's work to do there. Thank you. I think, Greg, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think my response to your question is kind of, without at all being glib, is what I would want to know is what US rowing wants from the Masters demographic. Because I really couldn't answer that question if somebody asked me, other than obviously membership fees, but where does the Masters fit in US rowing's goal? Obviously, for juniors and seniors, it's win medals at the World Championships. So that's pretty obvious, but it's not as obvious for Masters rowing. So is it competition? Do you want to be fostering Masters competitions or coaching, or do you want to use the Masters? It seems to me is just sort of a huge resource of experience and knowledge in rowing. Do you want to use that? If so, how do we get involved? What sort of involvement are you looking for? And it's really been unclear to me for a long, long time what, beyond, hey, please pay your membership dues so you can row, it is that specifically US rowing would want from Masters.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I have to think about that a little bit. I mean, off the top of my head, I think US rowing is looking for participation from Masters. So, to keep this sport alive and growing and recognize, the more people we have rowing, and as Sharon was pointing out, there's this major drop off after college. So Masters are essential, right, to keep another generation going. And I think Masters can serve as referees, as coaches, as mentors to younger coaches as well. That's a good question. I think I need to think about that a little bit to really try to actually engage the Masters in a meaningful way. Absolutely. We have some other hands. Oh, Tessa. Hi. Oh, I think you're muted, Tessa.
How about this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for doing this. My name is Tessa. I row with LBRA in Long Beach, California. I wanted to, I don't know, I guess, ask a question. I wanted to know, what are some of the things that you guys are doing to support the basically share some of my experiences. So I'm a masters rower. I'm in my late 20s. I row in a club with largely folks older than me. I really love most of the folks in my club. I really love rowing, but we've got a few members of our leadership and some other folks in the club who really have been spreading some really bigoted ideas in a way that I know firsthand, that have caused some young, lower income rowers of color to quit the club and in some cases the sport. And, in trying to wrestle with what to do about this, especially as a lot more of this stuff started to sort of come to light as a result of the Black Lives Matter movement, and sort of these conversations happening more openly, and things like board meetings, club meetings, and things like that. I'm interested in what US Rowing might be able to do as sort of a partner in things like setting expectations with regards to what's political and what's just basic conduct, right? Because I think we've had a lot of arguments over, well, we don't need to talk about that because we're about rowing and that's political. So I would love, obviously, I don't expect US Rowing to get involved in my club's politics, but what I would love to see from US Rowing is how can we leverage the relationship with US Rowing and the essentially contractual relationship to put pressure on folks in our organization, or even just to set the standards of what is within the realm of what a boathouse should be doing, especially with regards to folks who aren't interested in this work, right? Hosting trainings is one thing, but the folks who are really, in my experience, really causing a lot of harm in these areas, they aren't interested in attending a training.
Right.
And so I was trying to do some research about, okay, to what extent is this part of safe sport? Because I know that's a requirement.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it's really part of it. So this is a very vague question, but I'm just sort of like, I don't know where to turn to help with this problem. And I'm wondering where US Rowing might fit in.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for sharing that, Tessa, and it's nice to meet you. And I'm sorry that is happening at your club. Again, unfortunately, I don't think that's incredibly unique. I think that is happening around the country. And I do think there's a role for US Rowing to play. I think we need to and want to lead the way in terms of diversity and equity and inclusion in our sport. I think that is our responsibility, and we will take that seriously. And that's why we have a 17-person DEI committee of the board, of which Kirsten Feldman, I'm so glad she's here, is a co-chair. And so we're coming up with now, among other things, how can we be a resource to clubs? So you could reach out to us and say, and we should have an offline conversation about this, because I can think of some ways we can be helpful. So that people can come to us in clubs or high school rowers or college coaches and say, how do I make my boathouse more diverse? How do I make it more inclusive? Or also forget about that, or how do I just even stop the bigotry and the open hatred that's already happening? Like, let's just start with that. And I think, we want and need to lead the way on that front. And so, I mean, I was on the phone today with the principal of a high school in Philadelphia who had a rower. I don't know if any of you followed the whole Instagram rowing in color issue that came up yesterday, but who was posting racist memes, and he's a rower at a high school. So to say we take this seriously is an understatement, and we certainly will be a resource. And I know there are folks who want us to be, and we will be. And there's a lot of work to do, right? But I think that's also one of the reasons that I'm here. That's one of the reasons that the board, I don't know if you guys are regretting it yet, Greg, but
let me just jump in there, and I'll put my email up later. But so as an NGB, we're part of the Safe Sport mandate that Congress put into place. And part of safe sport is bullying and harassment. Okay, and we all go through training to recognize it when we see it. And you'd like to say to people, hey, just don't be a jerk and try to help other people and try to do things together, and share what you've got in common and respect each other's differences and where everybody else is coming from. So I've been on the board for a couple of years now, and one of the things that when we have our board meetings, and we'll have somebody come in periodically and say, okay, here's what's going on with respect to safe sport. A pretty big chunk of the stuff that we deal with respect to safe sport, and the Center for Safe Sport can elect to take it on directly, or they can tell us that we should address it based on the guidance that they're giving us. A pretty big chunk of what we're dealing with involves masters, like grown-ups treating other grown-ups badly. So if you've got a situation going on, absolutely call us up, and we'll try to be as helpful as we can, and as constructive as we can. And yeah, you shouldn't feel like you're out there on your own dealing with this.
Yeah, Greg's right. I was surprised, actually, or maybe I shouldn't have been, that so many of the safe sport issues are adults' issues with other adults. So, and write to me offline. Jack will share my info, and there are ways we can be helpful sooner rather than later on that front too. Who else has their? Oh, Jonathan.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you
Hi.
for this. I wanted to offer a perspective from both a rower and a coach of masters. First, I want to echo Martin's concern. I think, communication, we all know communication, can make or break anything. So the more we pay attention to that, the better off we'll be. And I think, having worked with masters, the same team for 8 years, when we have races that are 8-10 months plus out and we know the dates, it is really easy to get everybody to commit to those. And it does make our lives easier, and it should make your lives easier knowing that, you have a subset of people that are already committed to, regionals or nationals. With regards to coaching, I recognize, it is a big challenge. I recognize that we are somewhat unique where we are, for one, having the consistency of coaching. And I think, and I want to say, be humble. And before I started coaching masters, I've been coaching for 20 years, but there's this reputation, right? I don't want to coach masters because they don't listen, or they're not serious, or, And I think that's not true. Obviously, there's people, everywhere that want to be fast, and be successful in whatever that means to them. So we have to do a better job, and we, collectively, of fighting that stereotype a little bit. And one of the ways that we can do it, which, US Rowing has started, is coaching education. I was lucky enough to be accepted in level 3, and one of my goals is to share, right? Yeah. Share that with all my coaches at our club, and go on from there. And I know that is everyone's goal that was in the class. And I think that we want to make sure that we are including masters, or at least a conversation about that, in those conversations. And maybe even picking masters clubs that have, done things really well, like we've done with junior clubs like KC and Chris Chase, and having them put presentations together about how they did it. It's a little unique than juniors. Yeah, masters get a bad rap. Yeah. That's so true. And, I think I love what you're saying, and good job on level 3. That's great. And
And I think I think we can learn from like, who's doing this well, right? And US Rowing, can we highlight them? Can we tell their story of who has an inclusive, robust, great community of masters rowers? Because instead of saying to groups, oh, these are the things you're doing wrong, let's say, let's hold up a group to emulate. So that's a good suggestion. Thank you. Kirsten has had her hand up too. Oh no, you're muted, but no, you don't. Okay, should we move to Mike? Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I
Sure,
wanted to, oh, wrong mic or?
No, right Mike.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, sorry, there are two mics. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I was looking up at Mike Aller, but there's
Right.
you both had your hands up. Mike Puckley, am I saying that right? You should go, and then the other Mike, sorry.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to, from the competitive masters end, wanted to, first of all, put the accolades out there to US Rowing for the US Rowing Masters Nationals Championship. It is definitely the crowning jewel of the races in the summer for Masters racing. So I mean, if you didn't know that, I want you to hear that from a Masters rower. And Riverfront has been going pretty consistently for about 13 years, and it's just it's what we work toward every year. So I would also say that your expansion of the age categories, both downward, which I think helps with this whole issue of involving the younger rowers, because I mean, we have some very good younger rowers, but they're not necessarily going to be material that are going to perform really, really well at your national championships, or what used to be called club nationals. By having the AA and the A at Master Nationals, we've been able to engage some fairly good rowers and pull them right out of college. So I wanted to let you know that, and an expansion of that would be great, because there's still within that category, the races are limited. They're not as robust as, say, the C and the D and the E categories. So I'm just throwing that out there for you. But I just wanted to let you know what an important event it is in the competitive masters community, and anything that you can do to enhance its standing, maintain its integrity, maintaining the integrity between, within the races, between club and open, and things like that, is going to only make it better. And I'm assuming that the Masters Nationals event is a very big revenue generator for the organization as well. And I think that it can be an even bigger revenue generator for you going forward. And by the way, very happy with taking the caps off the number of races that you can race, although there's probably an upper limit, and we're all going to have to figure that out. But I just wanted to throw that out there and let you know that the people that race there are really serious. And I will say the difference between Master Nationals and, say, Worlds is the progression. And having that progression is important. And I just wanted to throw that out there, because I know there has been discussion about the possibility of, oh, we just do a Worlds type event. Now, obviously, there's other people here with opinions, but we like the idea of one boat walks away as saying they're number one, at least, for that time. So
yeah, Mike, you and I should swap some emails. So I go back to like Chuck Colgan and Pete Peterson, and Chuck Colgan getting that 6 race cap put in there because Pete kept entering all these races and beating him. And then in Grand Rapids, we had emptied lanes, and I was like, this is stupid. So like 3 or 4 days before the thing, I was talking to Susan Smith, and I was like, why do we have this cap? And she's like, well, it's always been that way. And I'm like, no, it hasn't. So, I'm glad to hear you say you appreciated that.
He's going to need to bring a doctor's note.
Yeah, no, but
Okay.
because it's stupid to have empty lanes at a regatta.
Chris Chase had a question for you, Mike. Chris?
Hey, Mike. So I do have a question for you. One of the things about expanding comes into the logistics of hosting a regatta and adding more days on, which makes it hard, not not just on the people attending, but on the LOC, getting enough volunteers and getting enough permits to run the extra days of the regatta. So let me ask you just a crazy question. And Rachel, you might have to jump in here and tell me I'm crazy. If there was a 10-lane race course that could scrunch the number of days needed to expand the racing, would you go for that? I'm just asking you as a competitor. Rachel, is that even legal?
Are you looking for reactions on this, Chris?
No, I was asking Mike Buckley if he would, if as a competitor, if we could add more categories because we had more lanes and wouldn't need more days to do it, would you consider a 10-lane race? I'm just asking for a friend. Would you consider a 10-lane race course?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, we've never done anything like that. We have done up to 7, but if those at US Rowing think that they can manage a 10-lane an event, the referees, et cetera, then hey.
All right, Rachel.
Give it a shot.
Rachel.
I understand I certainly understand the logistics of having that many races and that many people, but like I said, the US Rowing event, particularly the Master Nationals event, is just so well respected, and I just think you can do even more with it. So
well, we have a 10-lane race course.
Chris, can you start the races with a cannon?
All right, guys. All right, boys. We're gonna stop talking about lanes and we're gonna move on now because I'm getting hungry. It's almost 8 o'clock here on the East Coast. Rachel, you had a question for a long time.
Actually, it's not a question per se, by the way. Am I the only Rachel on this?
Yes, I think so.
Thanks. I tried to answer for Rachel Sanchez, and boy, I'll tell you, I am not an insurance person. So anyways, thank you very much and welcome to US Rowing. I just wanted to go back a couple comments ago about coaching masters, and I do coach masters. And when I was deciding to get back into coaching after a lot of years, I went to Drexel's sports coaching and leadership program and got my master's in coaching, and with the emphasis in rowing, and it gave me my level 3 certificate. And I have to tell you, it was a great thing. And if we could get more coaches involved in either a program like that or the micro learning that US Rowing is trying to do, that Cam K is doing, I'm telling you, the coaches are going to be that much better, and I think they're going to learn how to deal with different personalities. That was one of the biggest takeaways that I had from the program at Drexel, which was how to coach various types of personalities, various types of individuals. I did a lot of research on the masters, so I really enjoy coaching masters. Everything that they bring to the table, and at the end of the day, if they walk away feeling like they got something out of the practice, I feel like we've succeeded. So I think that some of the experiences that people have about not wanting to coach masters is because they haven't quite had the background and the training in dealing with the personalities of different athletes.
Do you think, Rachel,
and to the 10 course thing as a referee? Oh God, no. Please, no.
I don't know why that's so funny to me. I'm just picturing the 10 lanes, but Rachel, this is helpful feedback. I want to ask you, and I'm glad you weren't asking me a question because I don't have a lot of answers yet. I want comments and feedback. So that's why this is a listening Zoom. What do you think? Do you think that some of the pieces that you picked up at Drexel could be built into US Rowing's coaching education, or do you think they need to be discrete programs?
No, I think that Cam is doing a great job, and Chris, all the folks that are involved in coaching education are doing a good job at revamping some of the training. From the safety committee, standpoint, we're involved in providing some guidance on how to update coaching education as it relates to safety. But, just in looking at some of the topics, I know that these things are built in based on who is becoming involved in the education portion of it. So the more professionalized we can make coaching and the education of coaches, I think it's just going to be that much better. And I think people are going to have a, we're going to get better at coaching our juniors. We're going to get better at coaching our collegiate athletes and our masters.
Do you think that masters rowers need something unique, something that maybe junior rowers or collegiate rowers don't need, that's specific to them?
Well, yeah, because now we're at a point in our life, masters are at a point in their life that multiple competing priorities, their work, their family, everything is going on. And so that can play into, look, Rachel, I get that you want to train me 7 days a week. I've got 3. And in that 3, I've got an hour and a half, right? Mm-hmm. And you have 2 of those days. So the other hour and a half, I've got to do, something else. So it's really learning about the constraints and the availability, all of those things put together and how you coach masters. And when you can adapt to their needs, and that's one of the other things, adapting to your athletes' needs, right? I think everybody comes out much happier at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. If you come in with a regimented program and you're not willing to be flexible, I think you're going to upset some of your athletes, and they're going to be, you're not going to have a good relationship with them. So understanding and being able to put that flexibility in place, I think puts together a good program.
Okay. We have Mike, the other Mike, and Marcia waiting patiently. Mike, other Mike, do you want to make your comment?
No problem. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like U.S. rowing overall, and there's been a couple other folks who have touched on this already, but could do a lot to focus on the message of rowing as a lifelong sport, as a lifetime sport, and really try and build that, and then figure out how to develop some package around that, whether it's, looking at how we do masters, and we're sort of closing the gap. I think that's been a really good thing to see, being able to bring in folks directly from college and engage them, even if they don't want to go the elite route. There's a way that they can continue to be involved at whatever level they feel comfortable doing. And then also, continuing to do some of the continuing education kind of things that CAMK is doing, where little like tidbits and things around, finding ways to be healthy and to build rowing into that, and then use the great ecosystem of providers and folks like Hydro and Concept 2 and everyone else to sort of build and hone that message. I think there's a lot that could be done there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's helpful feedback. Thank you. Marcia, you've been very patient.
Oh, not really. I just raised my hand, so you're giving me a lot more credit there, Amanda, probably than you should.
Well, when you're muted, you're automatically patient.
Yeah, I guess that's right. So, I'm with the Atlanta Rowing Club. I coach our adaptive program here. I'm a former college rower many years ago, and I've rowed in several different cities. So Houston, some in Dallas, and Huntsville before coming here. And so I've been in many different clubs. With Atlanta, I do not row or race with our coach teams, right? So I've got a rowing partner that we race together. We row, when I'm not injured, we row almost every day. So, and then I pull together boats for different races, right? But we always kind of run into the same thing where, if you're looking at this concept, I think that Mike talked about and Rachel talked about, right? So rowing for life, right? What's more important to us is getting out and rowing. We stay away from the politics of the club, right? And the teams and the things like that. And we go out and we train, and race and are just as competitive as anyone else in our coach teams. And so I think my question is there an opportunity for U.S. rowing to better support individuals, who want to row, right? But we don't necessarily really want to get caught up in a lot of the politics of their individual clubs, right? And I say that also knowing that I coach here as well, right? And our adaptive program is very different than the rest of the program here, but more of an opportunity than to you know, to engage. It just seems like the engagement between certainly between US Rowing and rowers is really through our club. It's not through us as individuals. So is there an opportunity then to engage, to be involved? I think many of us would love to spend more time volunteering and doing things outside of just our local areas. So what's our opportunity to do that where I'm not just part of an individual club?
That's why I love these conversations, because it's not something I would think about. So if I'm hearing, I might make sure I'm hearing this right, that sort of how can one engage beyond their club, and can US Rowing play a role in that through whether it's a virtual community or maybe we're the clearinghouse for where, yeah, I know. You're like, no more virtual, but it would be a clearinghouse for this is where there are volunteer opportunities at other clubs, or maybe this is, recruiting people to become referees or other ways to engage with the sport of rowing beyond your club. Is that
Yeah, it's that, but right. So, are there other opportunities to be a part of, to be more engaged, right?
Right, like refereeing.
But I don't care to race through, through Atlanta necessarily. And when we go and we pull together a composite team,
yeah,
we have lesser standing essentially, right, for spots at regattas, for everything else, and than other people do.
Yeah, so maybe we can be thinking about how can we be joiners,
right,
and make visible opportunities to be involved in rowing beyond people's individual clubs. That's good to think about. Meinhard, I'm not sure what the real name is there.
That's the real name, yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
good, okay.
Hi, Chris. Hey, yeah, I row in Arizona, in Phoenix, and but I'm originally from Ottensheim in Austria. You probably have heard of that place. It's a tiny little village where there was the World Championships last year, and 2020 we will have the World Masters there. So, I will definitely be there. Now, to this conversation, I want to make a comment on a point or on an area that was discussed earlier, which is basically how to use the masters as a resource, in clubs, in rowing in a wider sense. And, there's a parallel here. Number one, I find it's great what you, Amanda, did in New York, basically combining rowing and tutoring for kids. So, it's basically, teaching them, academics, but also, sport and fitness and rowing and stuff. And the second parallel, there's a US-wide organization called SCORE, which basically is retired business people coaching, startups, small businesses, etc. And the third area is that, what I've seen in the US, that in clubs, you have the junior rowers and you have the masters rowers. And very often it's like totally parallel communities. Yeah. They're not talking to each other. Yeah. There's, the masters row in the morning. Yes, of course, the juniors in the evening. So there's also a time, discrepancy there. But what about using the masters? And I'm talking now for the more older masters who have, for example, I am in economics. So, I have a master's degree in economics. So, I would be extremely happy to actually, help out with coaching as well as teaching kids at the same time. So you could use the masters, in basically two ways, for academics as well as, for fitness. So, and I think what you could do to maybe implement something like that, since you've done it in New York, so you have the template for success, how to do it, how to make a club successful in actually doing this. Right. It's just now the addition would be to add the masters, into the mix with the juniors. So you could develop a template and work like as a consultant to the different clubs who would like to implement something like that.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Meinhard. And that's something we're definitely already talking about, is how do we codify? And as Chris will say, so much of this already is captured, and we haven't put it out to the world in a clear way, it sounds like. But absolutely, people don't need to keep reinventing the wheel, right? And we can be a resource that way. Thank you. Elle has had their hand up for a while. Who's Elle?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, it's actually Lynn. Let me just turn on my video so everyone can see. Basically, I row at a very small master's club, and we don't have a lot of resources. We had a very good coach, so everybody knows how to row. They know the technique. The issue that we really have is we're always throwing boats together. We're rowing with a random combination of people, and everybody is taking a turn being a cox. So the gap really is, trying to get a boat set up, getting people rowing together. The cox is essentially being the coach, because often we don't have the coach back out. So I guess I'm looking for resources that would be really helpful if US Rowing or somebody had videos from the point of view of the cox seat. I know that Concept 2 has a set of very good videos and a side view of common technique errors, and you can see what they look like to call. But there's really a big gap. If you're throwing in that cox seat, you're out there rowing for an hour. It's really uncomfortable if you can't get the boat set. So I think there would be a big opportunity if there was something that US Rowing could put out there, something like just say, hey, you're going to start coxing, you've joined the club, you've gone to learn to row, you're rowing with us all the time. Now, could you take a turn coxing? Check out these videos. That would be so helpful if there was a way to close that knowledge gap for people who are coxing.
Yeah, that's luckily I'm 6'1"-ish, and so no one makes me do that. But yes, I think that happens all the time. And Rachel, thank you. Put this resource in for you to contact her for some tips on rowers being coxswains. But yeah, the idea is the goal. One of my goals is eventually we become the one-stop shop, right, for all of these resources. How to teach the catch, how to teach novices to put the boat in the water for the first time. Like, yes, if you're a coach, you know how to do these things. If you're a brand new coach, if you don't have that mentoring, I remember starting out coaching, there was not a ton of guidance, and it was sort of stumble your way through. I think we've made progress since then, and Chris is generously staying on top of things and posting some resources in the chat too. But that's why I want these conversations to be ongoing, right? We can all be resources to one another. There's no reason that people should be struggling alone when other people have answers and have advice. That's silly. And so I'm hopeful we can help change that. And I know Chris Chase has already led the way on so many fronts here at US Rowing for that. So thank you, Chris. Do we have any other? We have a couple minutes. I don't know if we have, and thank you, Greg, put his email in too. Oh, we have ZLAC has a hand up. Sorry, I just clicked off. Yes.
Yeah, I'm Chris Shannon from ZLAC Rowing. I'm a master's coach there as well as a scholar there. And just things from just my back, just things that I've kind of come across with US Rowing. As a rowing coach for masters, one of my frustration is for novices, they have a novice year and then they are out there going against the big guys.
Yep.
When I came through 30 some odd years ago, I hate to admit that, but many years ago, there was novice, intermediate, and then open, basically. So to have a stepping stone, and especially a novice sculling, you have a novice single racing, but there's no novice quad, very few novice double racing. So to incorporate some of those type of would be incredibly helpful, even if it's just at regionals, because many of the masters, they don't want to go into a single, but they'll do it with a buddy, and they'll do it with three other buddies. So that's a big thing that I come across from coaching.
Yeah.
The other thing that I find just here, Southwest things is, so I've been involved with rowing for a number of years, And I've done different things. As a competitor, I went to coaching, I officiated, helped with did many regattas, went back to coaching, gave up my refereeing license. And then when I inquired about it again, oh, you have to start from square one to go ahead and start up again. And so it came across as very kind of pompous to me that here I've been involved with rowing for such a long time. Yeah. And I really didn't step away, but yet go back to square one. And I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I didn't go back to refereeing. And so it's things like that. And that's happened to me on a number of different occasions. That's just the most blatant, where you're just like kind of a slap in the face versus looking at somebody's experience.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, we have a referee listening Zoom on Wednesday night. I learn a lot about refereeing. I don't know much about refereeing, I have to say. Especially on the rowing, but I'm learning. So thank you for that. I think we have one more minute, and Leah, am I saying that? Is it Leah or Leah?
Leah. It's Leah.
Leah, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Welcome, Amanda, and thank you for today's event. My name is Leah Park-Kim, and I row in Coxswain River City Rowing Club based in West Sacramento. And I've loved the conversation today, and I just wanted to throw out there as a comment, as a person who's 29 years old, who learned to row after college from Coach Chris at ZLAC, and I just fell in love thanks to her and the teammates, and stayed ever since with the sport. But for me personally, what helps me a lot is not helps, but finances is one of the factors. I'm generalizing here, but for younger rowers, people in my age who's just starting out their careers and things like that. So when I do go to regattas or sign up to go to rowing related events, that's one of the biggest factors. So if you're a club leader or a coach who's trying to expand your racers and recruit younger people, just remember that might be someone's factor in their lives, because I'm glad a lot of the regatta conversations happened today, but that's also why it's helpful to have the regatta schedule early on, because when I talk to the coach, that's how I decide, okay, I can't go to out of state 5 times in October, so I'm gonna have to prioritize. And some of the clubs I've been with has like a coxswain fund, but I understand that's not a possibility for every club and other rowers to help coxswains travel to places. So that's just, some clubs do that, and that's helpful to younger coxswains, high school coxswains, things like that. But I just wanted to throw that out there that it's a big factor.
That's helpful to hear, and something we can help. I think we can help message that back to clubs and administrators, and how do we make rowing more accessible, and one of the barriers is certainly cost. So that's helpful to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's a side note, I've loved a lot of the USRowing webinars that happened early in pandemic. I think Chris, in May and June and all of that. I've seen Chris a lot, and I thought the topics were very diverse, and it was hitting all different targets, membership from the USRowing. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for all those.
Great, thank you for that. And like I said in the beginning, I want this to be an ongoing conversation with you all. We all want to make the sport better and more accessible, more diverse. We want to, have more races and better our boat houses and coaching education, all of it. So I can't do that alone, and I'm looking to all of you to be great partners in that. And so keep the feedback coming, and I'm excited to see you all at races again one day, and I know we all are. It's going to be a huge celebration, and that we will always appreciate in a new way, I'm sure, for the rest of our lives. So I think we'll come back to you soon, couple weeks, with feedback from this, and let's keep the conversation going. And thank you to my colleagues and to Greg Benning for joining us too, and enjoy the rest of your evenings or afternoons if you're on the West Coast. Thank you.